Hi everybody! I'm making this random video in my car because I just remembered I've been wanting to make one about piercing bumps. So a lot of people call them different things. I've seen them be called keloids, hypertrophic scarring, and just piercing bumps and other things. So I have done research. I am not a piercer. I'm not a professional of any type of piercing field. But I am the kind of person who does a crazy amount of research when I am encountered with something that I want to learn more about. So I did have, and I am prone to those bumps. I had one here on my nostril when I had my nostril pierced about a month into it. And I also just got rid of mine here on my conch piercing. So I don't have one anymore, but I had them and they're pretty nasty. So the reason that they're not keloids, unless you do have a keloid, keloids are scars basically that keep growing and multiplying. And it's a specific condition that not everybody has. Some people are more prone to them. If you're prone to them, then most likely your other scars on your body from just scratches, maybe surgeries, are going to be raised. The skin is going to be very shiny, and it's actually a healed, so it's a way that the skin heals itself, and then the keloid forms as like an extra large scar. So if you are trying to get rid of a keloid, you're going to need to see a doctor most likely, because they are a lot more serious, and if you do try to remove it yourself, it might actually cause them to grow even more. So be careful with those. Now, hypertrophic scarring, which a lot of piercers call these bumps, it's not exactly an accurate definition either, because a scar is something that forms after the skin is healed, and the reason they're called hypertrophic is because they're on top of your skin. They're on at the top layer of the skin, and from my research, it's just not an accurate description of the kind of piercing bumps that appear as a result of irritation. So the actual piercing bumps that you get, especially on cartilage piercings such as the nostril and the ear, are just irritation bumps, because they're not the kind of tissue, the skin tissue, that grows when you develop a scar. So they are basically, sometimes they're filled with fluid, and the way they go away is once the irritation stops and it also dries up. So the way to do that is, if you are prone to them, not everyone is, because you might get pierced with a nose ring, which piercers usually don't recommend, but if you do and you don't develop that type of irritation bump, then hey, good for you. But for me, it was a real struggle to get rid of them. So I got mine done with just a standard screw, and as soon as the initial inflammation had diminished, I immediately developed this bump, because I guess it was just moving around in there, and it was just ugly. It was red and purple sometimes, and just, if you've had one, you know what I'm talking about. But what I did with mine was two things. I switched my jewelry out to a neo-metal threadless labret, and it needs to be pretty much the same length as the skin right here that is pierced. So make sure if you do change it out to a new metal or another type of labret, so that it doesn't move too much, make sure that there's like almost like when you have it stick out from the other side of the piercing, that it doesn't stick out too much at all, maybe at most a millimeter, but really try to go for pretty much none, because if it just sits literally in your skin, the bump will almost immediately start diminishing, because there's no irritation, there's no movement of the jewelry like this, there's no movement happening to it, and so your skin can just focus on healing, and you want it to heal around, like the piercing needs to be healed inside out. And so that's one way. And of course, if that's not going away on its own, if you're doing just taking care of it, regular salt, sea salt soaks, warm water, you're not over cleaning it, making sure that You're not touching it. And if it's not going away, then you need to dry it up, which is also for some reason controversial, but it is basically what you need to do for it to fall off, because it will fall off and it'll basically like crust off. You don't have to touch it, but I mean, you'll probably want to just like remove the skin cells from there. But that's what literally happens. It'll dry off once the irritation stops. And if you need to give it a little extra push, you do need to add something to it. Some people have success with tea tree oil. You do have to dilute it with another kind of oil so it doesn't burn your skin. Some people do have luck with just regular sea salt soaks. I did not have luck with it. For me, every time I did it, it actually blew up a little bit more. It became redder, it became fatter, and it never went away from that. So I used Condi's crystals. It's a purple chemical that you have to dilute in water. Like, you have to dilute it to a point where it's only a tiny crystal that goes in with like half a cup. The water needs to be barely pink in order for it to not injure your skin, because you can burn your skin with it. So you have to be very careful if you are using that. But if you are, then you have to dilute it to a point where it is pink, not dark purple. Like, it needs to be, you have to be able to see through it, and it needs to be just pink, not purple. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy them in other like pharmacy. But that's what worked for me. I did a couple of soaks with that with really hot water. I would say like for maybe a week or two, and it went away. It fell off, it dried off, and after that I just didn't touch my nose. I didn't wash it specifically. I just washed my face, and it, whatever water got on it, I would just wash it off, and that was it. That's what worked for me. It may not work for you, but again, this is just, if you are aware of the process, then there's a way to do it. So the same thing happened with my conch piercing. It took like forever to heal. Like, for me, just cartilage, what is wrong with me? Cartilage piercings take a long time to heal. So I had a big old bump. Luckily, I was just hiding it behind this gem back here. But I did change it to, I downsized the length of this lay bread that I was originally pierced with, and I would actually even go lower, shorter than that, because you can see it sticking out. I would go to the point where you like barely can see it, like you can't, like where you can't see it sticking out from outside of your skin. But anyway, but that's just something that I've noticed worked, and I haven't really found a lot of helpful resources that talk about all of those steps that you need to take. But it is quite simple once you basically get the principle of switching it out to jewelry that doesn't move around too much, and find a way that you can safely dry it off for it to heal on its own. Good luck with that. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions.